Station, this is Houston. Are you ready for the event?
Houston Station, ready for the event.
European Space Agency, this is Mission Control Houston. Please call station for a voice check.
Station, this is Isa Pio from ASI in Rome, here at the ASI headquarters, waiting for you for the beginning of the event. Please check, voice check.
ASI headquarters, this is Space Station, read you loud and clear. How me?
It's great to see you, Paolo. I leave the word now right away to Germana and Paolo D'Angelo, who will conduct the event here in ASI for you today.
Hello, Paolo. It's a pleasure to see you. I'm Germana. It's a pleasure to find you in such good shape. We're here today at the main headquarters of Attico, and we here are at this high school in Rome for the surrounding area as well. And we're at the Silvestro di Portici. We have done a number of experiments that you know very well, and they have performed. All of the students have been following an education course that is very important, and we have learned our in-depth various problems having to do with space and that sector, and today for them, this is the culmination of all of the work they've done so far, is to be able to speak with you. And so we greet you from our president, the general director, and from all of the members of the Italian Space Agency. And now you're my companion on this adventure, Paolo Angelo. I'd like to present to you. Ciao, Paolo. Just a quick set of greetings. I don't want to cut into the time for the students, and here's their first question. I'm Bernardo from Avogadro Institute. I'd like to know, what is it that pushes you into engaging in this work in the space station, which is also a very risky endeavor? Yes, I wanted to begin to greet Germana and Paolo. It's a pleasure to hear you, or from you. And there is a fairly strong echo. If you could cut the microphone off when you're not talking, that might be better. And I was saying greetings to all of you. It's a pleasure to be with all of you here at the space station, the International Space Station of the Columbus module in the International Space Station. This is a moment, an extremely important moment for the station, because it's important, all of that we're doing here in terms of science and technology, all the activities that we're engaged in, but also to speak with you and to bring you to space for a short period of time is a very important activity. And so I thank you for having come this morning, today, to have listened what we're doing. Thank you also for giving us your attention, and so that I can give you a certain possibilities for your future. And so returning to the question, who is it that was Bernardo? What is the reason that pushes an astronaut to go on this type of mission? Well, to tell the truth, it is my dream. It's a dream that I've had since I was a child, a boy. I wanted to be an astronaut. I wanted to try to go outside of the world and to try these things, which are rather strange. On the one side, it's true. It's also rather closed. But on the other hand, these are things that bring so many important things that are useful to all of us. And therefore, I would say that it is worth the effort. I would say it's worth the effort. To take this risk, for me, is not a risk, because these are all positive things. I'm Ilaria Ruffini from the Technical Scientific School of Volterra. I'd like to know what happens in the case of an illness of an astronaut. or injury. Ilaria, we have an entire series of activities for emergency situations in case there are particularly important problems that arise. You can see in back here is the emergency panel, and one of these lights will light in the event of an emergency. There are sirens also that one can hear. In the case of really major problems in terms of medical or physical sense, we can, of course, abandon the space station. And this shuttle that we've come to can actually, within a space of just a few hours, can take us back to Earth. Hello? I am from the Einstein. I wanted to ask you, can you tell us about the scientific and technical aspects of your mission involving the stress of departure and takeoff? Yes, the stress of takeoff is fairly significant, not only in the physical sense, but also the separation from the family and various considerations that you come to mind. But we overcome these by preparation through the proper training, the right preparation, through mental training as well, with the right team around you. And I have to tell you that when we leave on these missions, all of these things have been taken into consideration. We have also then been training in environments that are rather hostile on Earth, in caves or in mountains or particular situations, to try to see how we would react under these conditions. And so you have to know yourself. It's very important to engage in sports, for example, to do all that you can do to be able to understand yourself in greater depth. Salve. I am Carmen from Benedetti. What, in your opinion, what is your opinion of the Fermi paradox? Carmine, the Fermi paradox is analyzed in a few words, or if there were civilizations that were outside of Earth, why do they not reveal themselves? Why haven't we heard them up to now? It's a good question, an interesting question. I would have liked to have been able to engage in dialogue with Fermi and Teller and all those who've asked these questions, which are still asked today. So I'd like to know how it is that human beings are curious and go out in search of these things, even those that are rather strange. With regard, I'm convinced that in a certain part of the universe there are other forms of life. The problem is the enormous distances that separate us, and therefore how to go out and pick out a small grain of sand in a sea of sand. It's almost impossible. Salve. I am Francesco Danella from Giordano Bruno. Being in space must be an unimaginable and unique experience. How do you spend your days during the course of your space journey? Well, I would say that certainly there is a change. The fact that you can arrive up here and to see and make it seen that it is possible to realize your dreams, even a complicated and incredible dream. It is possible to make the ability to do this changes your perspective and your way of seeing things. Also, the ability to be able to see Earth as a whole. It also changes your attitude and your perspective on the planet and what we are. And all of these things are important and fundamental aspects and questions, I would say, that come into space changes you in a positive sense. And I'm happy that in the future, it'll be possible for many more of us to travel and have these experiences. And I hope that you'll be able to as well. I'm from the Filippo Silvestri Technical School. Your experience has taught us that during the conduct of an experience, it is important to repeat the same experiments many times because error is always a possibility. We've done hundreds of experiments, and what can you tell us about what you expect after having run the same experiment so many times? Well, to tell the truth is true. Perhaps this is one of the most important considerations in the space station. If I'm asked if I'm afraid, how do I feel, etc., I always respond that the only fear that I have is that of committing errors in conducting the experiments and not paying attention to what I'm doing and destroying an experiment that would have cost hours of work and efforts by so many people. Yes, we feel the responsibility, but I have to say that the training that we've had, the support from control centers, is fundamental to our success. We engage in activities every day. Every day we work together in order to assure that what we do, we can do it without problems, and also in the majority of times we succeed. And so there's a responsibility, but it is a team effort, which is fundamental. And with this teamwork, we're able to really go a great distance.
Salve, sono
Hello.
Jacopo del Liceo Talete.
I am Alessandro Di Jacopo of the Talete High School.
All'interno della stazione spaziale a questo cambio di ora?
How do you, within the space station, account for the change in time zones? Well, we use the London GMT, or Greenwich Mean Time. It's rather a complicated thing because here, without outside references with the sun, since we're going around the Earth in an hour and a half, that is, we have about 16 times a day. This makes things complicated. I have at least 2 watches, which I wear with different hours. One of these is on a 24-hour basis. It's interesting. Time management is a very interesting aspect, and how it is. But we use GMT in an attempt to use to establish a point of reference.
Salve, sono Davide
Salve.
Marchetti del Liceo Giordano Bruno.
I am Davide Marchetti from Giordano Bruno High School. What are the negative and positive aspects of life without gravity?
Davide, un saluto a te.
Greetings to you and all of those at Giordano Bruno. Working without gravity brings you into a completely different world. The normal rules do not apply, and there's no way to really train for this world on the Earth. And so you have to become an extraterrestrial person to learn that there's no up or down. You learn that you can calmly work with your head down and to work without any problems. It is a situation that is really rather confusing. You have to learn to work in this manner and to understand that if you are the one who defines your environmental conditions, at first it's a little bit disconcerting, but then you become accustomed, and it's incredible how light and free you feel. And this is a testimony to the fact that we find ourselves quickly accustomed to the conditions that surround us without any problems. Hello, I'm Denise with 4th S, and I wanted to ask you, considering that how do you go to sleep, since the conditions on Earth are different from space? It's true, 16 times, or rather 6 sunrises and sunsets confuses us, and here we have our daily planning schedule, which we consult, which consists of all of our planning activities, which includes within parentheses when we have to go sleep, which is usually about 10 o'clock at night. Of course, everyone can do as he wishes, but normally between hour 10 o'clock and 6 in the morning is the period that I've dedicated to sleep. I have to say that we sleep very well here in the station, floating a little bit like this, but you sleep very well. Hello. I am Ludovico from the Fermi Institute. I'd like to know about how you see. I'd like to know your response to the contributions made by the team in Italy, and also I have to say that being up here gives us a vision of the world which is different, and you lose the perception of what is done in every specified point of the Earth. The fact is that here you have an absolutely global vision. Your question is extremely important. It raises questions as to how we are as a civilization, where we're going. Of course, there are particularities and details that are extremely important, relating to catastrophic events on the one hand, and strong on the other hand, which shake us as human beings. You really get a perspective that is different concerning life. Regarding your question about human catastrophe on Earth. And there is no precise response. We are all on this ship that travels the universe, which of course is the planet Earth, and we try to make it run better, searching always to do it as well as we can and to be as good as we can. Hello, I'm from the Scientific Institute of Volterra. How are your human relations within the space station? I wanted to ask you. Well, it's true that we are in a cohabitation situation, which is rather pressurized. There are 6 people within a closed space, but we're all professionals. We have an extremely important objective that is very important not only to our space agencies, but to humanity as a whole. And so we are all motivated to work as well as we can together by avoiding the small things that make complicate life. What we normally do is that whenever something bothers us so that we don't like or something that isn't working, we immediately bring it up. This is one of the things that we do here openly, so as to give the others the ability to understand that something is happening that is not going well and gives us a chance to change it. For me, this is a very important thing.
Ciao, sono
Hello.
Petris del Liceo Scientifico Amedeo Avogadro.
I am Matteo from the Avogadro Scientific Institute. I'd like to ask you how it is that radiation and microgravity can affect the cells of the retina, and how can your coenzymes be affected by your conditions. Mattia, that's a very important and specific question, a precise question, to which I'm not sure if I can respond adequately. I would like to call on experts from the Italian Space Agency. I'm sure there are some that would be able to give you a better answer. But in fact, the entire body, including the retina, is affected by these conditions, which is part of the studies. These damaging effects are part of the studies that we are engaging in here in the space station. You can see behind me there's an echo, or a machine for producing echo sonograms. We just recently did an experiment to see the condition of the eggs and whether it works or doesn't work. So in a personal sense, I don't know, but I know that they're doing a lot of research and trying to understand whether these substances are effective in preventing some of these problems. And the results we shall see in the future. Hello. I'm Giuliano from the Filippo Silvestri Institute. When you're up there in the space station and you're looking at the Earth and all of its beauty, can you tell us that there is a means that you can perceive from your vantage point as to how conflict among men on Earth can be resolved? Well, that's a philosophical question, which is very important. Well, we as human beings have this planet, which is the only planet that we have for the time being. The Earth is very powerful. We can do a lot to the Earth. Nothing happens to it, but the problem is that if environmental conditions change, those which enable us to live, we will disappear, and after a few million years, the Earth will return to the way it was. We have to pay attention to work together to maintain this ship that is passing through the universe, in order to be able to manage it more effectively and do everything to prevent what you suggested from happening. Hello, I am Ms. Larocco from the Scientific Institute of Rome. I would like to ask you, based on your experience, whether it was easier to train yourself to go into space or to come back to Earth and readapt to life on Earth. Which is more difficult? My experience from the two previous missions tells me that I adapt very easily to the absence of weight in orbit, but on the other hand, I repay that ease when I return to Earth. When the force of gravity grabs a hold of me again and squashes me, pushes me toward the Earth. And I've got to tell you, the first days after my return to Earth were rather difficult, including the therapy and the work that I do to strengthen my exoskeletal and my eyes. This has been my experience so far. Returning to Earth is harder than going into space. Hello, Paolo. I am from the Einstein Institute. I would like to ask you, besides the scientific aspects of the mission, are there any other fundamental factors that induce you to leave? Yes, Laura. Certainly the technological and scientific goals and work that we do is very important, but also for me, this is the culmination of a dream, to do what I want to do, to follow my passions. It's also a pleasure, certainly, to speak with you, all of you, to be able to transmit this idea of trying to do things that have been impossible. We're trying to, of course, explore everything that is around us and to do what heretofore has been considered almost impossible, and to be able to bring this experience into everyone's home, into the schools. I am happy to do it, and I'll do it again as soon as I return to Earth in the future. Hello, I'm Emanuela from the Avogadro Scientific Institute. I'd like to know, well, when you distinguish your nighttime from Earth, what benefits will that bring to research in distinguishing nighttime from daytime? It's a very specific question regarding the scope of this is a precursor mission for a mission that will follow later. We're trying to investigate, to understand what happens as a result of cosmic rays. We don't know where they come from, where they go. There are many questions to which we have not found answers so far. The telescope is going to be used to make a mapping of the sources of lights on the Earth in order to be able to ensure that when we measure the lights that come from the outside, those that are generated by this external radiation, we'll be able to know exactly whether it is something from Earth or not. This seems a little bit complicated, a little bit bizarre, but it's something that's a very important question, because there's so many questions that still exist that we have not as yet responded to, and this is going to be one of those that's going to be able to bring forward our knowledge, to advance our knowledge. Okay, Paolo, thank you for having given you our time. It flew quickly by. I thank you again. It's always a pleasure to see you, and to see you in good condition. I thank you again for all the work that you're doing in space for us, but also for humanity as a whole. I'd like to give you a few seconds to give you a chance to greet the again, pass along the greetings of the kids, the students here. Thank you, Germana and Paolo. Please give me my best wishes to President Battistone of the Italian Space Agency, and also greetings to all of you young folks who've been there at the Italian Space Agency. Ask yourselves the questions, be wide awake to the possibilities that exist out there for you so that you can do what you want to do. We shall see again in 20 years when I'll be sitting down in your auditorium of the Italian Space Agency, and you will be out in Mars, I don't know where, and I look forward to contacting you again. That's an appointment for us to keep in 20 years. Bye now.
Station, this is Houston ACR. That concludes the event.
Thank you to all participants from European Space Agency. Station, we are now resuming operational audio communications.